Chapter 9 of the Colored Patriots of the American Revolution by William Cooper Nell. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by the Progressing America Project. The Colored Patriots of the American Revolution. Chapter 9. Delaware. Prince Whipple, the colored soldier at the crossing of the Delaware. Proscriptive Law. In the engravings of Washington crossing the Delaware, on the evening previous to the Battle of Trenton, December 25, 1779, a colored soldier is seen, on horseback, quite prominent, near the commander-in-chief, the same figure that, in other sketches, is seen pulling the stroke oar in that memorable crossing. This colored soldier was Prince Whipple, bodyguard to General Whipple, of New Hampshire, who was aide to General Washington. Prince Whipple was born at Amabu, Africa, of comparatively wealthy parents. When about 10 years of age, he was sent by them, in company with a cousin, to America to be educated. An elder brother had returned 4 years before, and his parents were anxious that their other child should receive the same benefits. The captain who brought the two boys over proved a treacherous villain, and carried them to Baltimore, where he exposed them for sale, and they were both purchased by Portsmouth men, Prince falling to General Whipple. He was emancipated during the war, was much esteemed, and was once entrusted by the general with a large sum of money to carry from Salem to Portsmouth. He was attacked on the road, near Newburyport, by two ruffians. One he struck with a loaded whip, the other he shot, and succeeded in arriving home in safety. Prince was beloved by all who knew him. He was the Caleb Quotem of Portsmouth, where he died at the age of 32, leaving a widow and children. Their descendants now reside in that place, one being married to Dr. Isaac H. Snowden, son of the Reverend Samuel Snowden, of Boston. Delaware is yet disgraced by a statute forbidding the immigration of free colored persons. Even her own native-born colored citizens, on absenting themselves, cannot return to the state without being liable to fines and imprisonment. A colored man from Columbia, Pennsylvania, some 6 years since, going into the state, was informed against, and fined by a magistrate $50, after he had been some time in prison. That noble friend of humanity, Thomas Garrett, paid his fine and costs, about $86, a portion of which was contributed in Pennsylvania. The facts were published, when the magistrate sued Mr. Garrett for libel, and he was bound over, in the sum of $1,000. The magistrate committed an act of dishonesty, left his family in the state several years to avoid prosecution, and finally his friends obtained a pardon from the governor, and he returned and was reappointed magistrate. Mr. Garrett, fearing that, as he had once absented himself, he might do so again, had him bound over, in the sum of $5,000 to prosecute the charge, but Mr. Garrett has not been troubled on the subject since. I learned from Mr. Garrett that 3 arrests have since been made in Newcastle County, but the law was so odious that the magistrates, fearing their credit would be injured, released the men on their own recognizance, and they left the state. Judge Booth states that a colored girl, in order to obtain better wages, left her parents in Sussex and crossed over to Jersey, where she remained 2 years. Her mother was then taken ill, and she returned home to nurse her. After she died, before the funeral, some fiend in human shape informed against her. The magistrate issued the writ, and the constable served it before the corpse left the house. Such was the indignation of the neighborhood, however, slaveholders though they were, that the informer and constable would have been mobbed, if they had not desisted from their attempt. The girl remained at her father's house unmolested. End of Chapter 9.